Welcome back. In this module, we're going to be discussing organizational influences and project life cycle. Projects we carry out usually are as a result of needs. It could be need of an individual, need of a family, need of one form of organization or the other. It could be a business enterprise. But as a result of need, a lot of times we carry out projects. And so there is usually some form of interaction between the organization and the project. Remember, we define project as the temporary endeavor we carry out to accomplish unique goals or to achieve unique results. So if we have unique goal that we are targeting for the use of a particular organization or an entity, there is always a lot of influences from that entity or that organization in the process of executing the project. So we're going to be looking at how different types of organizations influence project management, and especially the life cycle of project itself. We are going to be looking at the broader scope or the bigger context in which we should look at project life cycle. So here we're going to be discussing basically the interactions of organization with the project that we manage. Project management takes place in an environment that is broader than that of the project itself. Understanding this broader context helps ensure that work is carried out in alignment with the organization's goals and managed in accordance with the organization's established practices. This section describes how organizational influences affect the methods used for staffing, managing, and executing the project. It discusses the influence of stakeholders on the project and its governance, the project team structure and membership, and different approaches to the phasing and relationship of activities within the project life cycle. So we're going to be looking at organization. Organizations are systematic arrangement of entities, which could be persons and or departments, which are aimed at accomplishing a purpose which may involve undertaking projects. And then such organizations do have what we call culture. Whatever the organization does as a norm, repeatedly, habitually, without thinking or without having to go through any form of rigorous processes, are some of the things we can likely refer to as culture. So cultures and styles are group phenomena known as cultural norms, which develop over time. They develop over time, they become habits, they become seamless, they happen by default, they happen naturally. The norms include established processes to initiate and plan projects, the means considered acceptable for getting work done, and recognized authorities who make or influence decisions. An organization's culture, style, and structure influence how its projects are performed. The organization's level of project management maturity and its project management system can also influence the project. And so when we talk about organizational communication, project management success in an organization is highly dependent on effective organizational communication style, especially in the face of globalization of the project management profession. There are three broad categories in which we can group organizations. There are several of them, but broadly we can put them into three different categories. We have on one hand functional organization, and we have at the extreme opposite projectized organization, and somewhere in between we have what we call the matrix organization. The functional organization is the most common form found in most organizations. The organization is especially grouped by areas of functionalities, by areas of function, areas of specialization within different functional areas. This is the kind of organizations where you hear there is a marketing department, there's an administrative department, there's an accounting department, there is HR, and so on and so forth. In this type of organizations, people are likely to have a career path, people are likely to be professional at what they do, people are likely to be consistent in a particular role because that is probably the basis for their engagement in such organizations. Okay, so we have people grouped into different areas of functions, and this becomes their primary assignment to the organization. But on the other hand, in projectized organization, the entire organization is grouped by projects. Team members have no home. When the team members get done with a particular project, everybody goes back to wherever they might have come from. There is no primary assignment apart from projects. Unlike in a functional organization whereby when project completes, when projects get done, people or project resources return back to their various departments within the organization. So in projectized organization, resources only exist because there is a project. The moment that there are no projects to manage anymore, everybody goes back home. Okay, so matrix organization is a sort of combination of functional and projectized organization. It combines the characteristics of both types of organization. Here the team member usually will have two bosses, such that while he has a functional boss, a departmental head, a team lead he might be responsible to as per the organization, he also has the figure of a project manager as a boss, such that there is a sort of dualization of command, whereby he has to report to the primary leader, the primary boss, who we can refer to as the functional boss now, and he also reports to the project manager, who is more or less a project boss. But we're going to see the pros and cons of these different types of organization as we go on. So an organization that involves all these three structures at various levels, often referred to as a composite organization. In a strong matrix environment, the power rests with the project manager. In a weak matrix organization, the power rests with the functional manager. In essence, what strong matrix means is that the organization tends towards a projectized organization. That is, the organization has a lot of its characteristics closest to projectized organization, whereby in weak matrix organization, the characteristics are very close to the functional organization. So the same way in functional environment that the project manager has little or no authority, is the same way in weak matrix. We generally refer to project manager as a project expediter or a project coordinator. So the project expediter can be a staff or a staff assistant or a communication coordinator. It cannot make or enforce decision. Usually we look at some new staff, new employee, a junior role within the organization, who seems to have a lot of time available on his or her hand, and then we say, can you oversee this project? So in that kind of situation, the project expediter really has no control over the project than giving him his best and using that to motivate the rest of the team to get some job done. It could also be a project coordinator, which is similar to project expediter but has more power to make decisions, some authority, and reports to a higher level manager. In a balanced matrix, the project is shared between functional manager and the project manager. That is, we have an even distribution of role, even distribution of authority or power between the functional manager and the project manager. Okay, it's a sort of balance of the projectized organization and the functional organization. So what are the advantages we have in the functional environment? Advantages include that there is easy management of specialists, because resources often get to repeat again and again and again a particular kind of task. They usually become specialists at what they do. Team members report to only one supervisor in a functional environment because there is just one boss. And then in a functional environment also, there is a clearly defined career path. There is usually an area of work specialization, because there is a role for every player in a functional environment, and because they want to get more responsibilities, they usually will improve themselves in that particular role, or improve themselves in their areas of specialization. They want to improve their skills in a particular area in which they are already responsible to the organization. And then we have disadvantages. People place more emphasis on their functional specialty to the detriment of the project. So you see an account person who says, oh no, it's not my job to vet a project schedule document, because I'm not the schedule manager, I'm not the project manager. Okay, even when such a resource has enough time to do a quick job on the schedule, he probably will just lay claim that he's supposed to be an accountant. Okay, so people place a lot of emphasis on their functional area, and then they treat the project as something secondary, which really should not disturb their activities in their primary areas of responsibility. Another disadvantage is there is this is wrong. There is a career path in functional environment. There is a career path in functional environment. It's in projectized environment that we say there is no career path, and I'm going to explain that when we get to projectized disadvantages of projectized organization. So the last disadvantage here is that project manager has little or no authority. In a functional environment, the project manager is just an expediter or a project coordinator. He really lacks authority. He has little or no authority. Okay. So in a projectized environment, advantages include efficient project organization, loyalty to the project, more effective communication than functional. When we say efficient project organization, there is just one organization, and everybody in the organization is there because of a project. So everyone is loyal to the project. There is effective communication. There is just one direct boss, which is usually the project manager. Disadvantages include that there is no home when the project is complete. As soon as project is done, everybody gets back to wherever they must have come from. That the word home here refers to a functional department in which a resource could have been selected to work on the project. There is lack of professionalism in disciplines, because in a projectized environment, resources often just choose what area they will be able to find their means of livelihood. So whatever their hands find doing part time, they want to just get engaged and find something to pay for their meals. So professionalism is a lot compromised. And then we have duplication of facilities and job functions. We have less efficient use of resources. And then in matrix, because we have a blend of functional and projectized organization, you can tell that there will be an improved advantage. So we have highly visible project objectives, because in matrix we have a combination of the functional managers and the project manager working together on the project. So there's a lot of management visibility, there's a lot of management support. Okay, and when management is involved, visibility of the objective of the project is a lot easier. And then improved project managers' control over resources. Here the authority of the project manager has been improved. More support from functional organization. Yes, maximum utilization of scarce resources. Better coordination. Team members maintain a home in this environment, because team members still get borrowed from the different departments or the different functional areas within the organization. The only difference is just that here there is someone called the project manager, and he has improved authority over what we have in the functional organization. Disadvantages will include extra administration that may be required. Here we have dualization of command line, such that there is a project manager and there's a functional manager managing one single resource at the same time. More than one boss for the project team, more complex to monitor and control, tougher problems with resource allocation, need extensive policies and procedures, higher potential for conflict, and so on and so forth. These diagrams should help us to understand the major differences between the functional organization and the projectized organization. So the diagram we have here is a chart showing us what we have in a functional organization. So you can see that we have the chief executive officer, and linked to the chief executive officer are the functional managers. So we have functional managers and we have employees under the functional managers. So you can see the ones in the gray boxes representing staff engaged in project activities. The staff engaged in project activities are not necessarily project staff, which means that they just have been borrowed to work on the project. So they are not necessarily project professionals, they are not necessarily recruited to come and to work as project resources. And here we have the projectized organization. You can see that linked to the chief executive officer, you have just project managers, and under project managers we have resources staff that are recruited for project management activities. And so we have the project manager being in the place of functional manager in a functional organization. And for weak matrix organization, you can see this is very close to what we saw in functional organization. You can see functional managers linking to the chief executive, and yes, we have all the gray boxes which are staff engaged in project activities. Still, none of them is basically a project staff, but at the end of the day, at the end of the selection process, we usually will pick one person to coordinate the activities of the project. And then we have the strong matrix organization, whereby there is a designated project manager from the project management office or whatever department is coordinating projects, and so such a project manager gets to oversee different functional areas from which resources might have been taken. So you can see resources drawn from 3 functional managers, and so the project manager gets to supervise the activities of these resources. So the project manager has improved authority over the project. And then in balanced matrix organization, we can see a balance of functional organization and projectized organization here. So let's talk about project lifecycle and organization. A life cycle is a progression through a series of different stages of development. Two methodologies are involved in completing a project. What you need to do the work, which is the project, and the project management processes. All projects, irrespective of size and complexity, can be mapped into the following cycle structure. We have starting the project, we have organizing and preparing, we have carrying out the project, and we have closing the project. Okay, so starting the project will be the period where we conceptualize the project, where we try to develop justification for why the project should be done, where we set out to accomplish some goals, some unique goals. And then organizing and preparing is the stage where we probably begin to gather resources, where we begin to prepare estimates, where we begin to prepare schedules for getting the job done. And then at some point where we carry out the project work, we actually get to execute the work that we have planned, and at the end of the day we deliver whatever deliverables or unique goals for which we have started the whole project in the first place. And then when we have the deliverables delivered and they are satisfactory, we close the project. And that marks the life cycle of the project. And at the point where the product is released, the life cycle of the project is ended, but the product life cycle continues. So looking at product life cycle, the life cycle of a product lasts from conception of a new product to its withdrawal from the market. The product life cycle may give rise to several projects. Thus, the project life cycle becomes part of the product life cycle. So the project life cycle is just a sub of the product life cycle. Okay, so product life cycle will include the conception stage, which can be part of project life cycle also. The growth stage, the maturity, the decline, and withdrawal. Okay, so the conception stage is the stage where the idea comes, and then we develop business case for it. We try to justify it. We probably find it worth investing into, and then we come up with concept notes. We come up with a brief, and then we go ahead to plan and execute. Okay, and then upon the delivery of the project result, we another stage of the product has resumed. Another stage of the life cycle has been entered into. So we get into growth stage, and then during the growth stage we go through different phases: the lag phase, the exponential phase, and then the redundant phase, where there's usually a decline or a recycling. Okay, and then when we get to that decline stage, it's either we withdraw the product from the market, or we do a remodeling, or we do some sort of re-strategizing to still keep the product in line for some more time. So we're going to be seeing some terminologies again and again, almost for the rest of the discussion that we're going to be having on project management. And one of them that I'm usually very passionate about is enterprise environmental factors. Now, enterprise environmental factors refer to both internal and external environmental factors that surround or influence a project's success. Okay, before I read the rest of what's on the slide, I want you to know that enterprise environmental factors is actually something you do not want to joke with on your project, because beyond just what you see in the physical environment, when we talk about enterprise environmental factors, we are talking about those factors, physical, abstract, social, mental, that the project will interact with in whatever environment it is found. Um, this is very important that we consider it before we make certain decisions in project, especially in planning. In all the 47 processes of project management that we are going to be discussing, you will find out that enterprise environmental factors usually will be input into almost all of them. The reason is because for every decision that is going to be taken on the project, you want to consider certain parameters about the project. In what environment is this project? What are the values? What are the operational beliefs? What are the operational culture? What are the location specific conditions that the project will have to deal with, or that the project will have to interact with? Stuff like organizational culture, structure and processes, government or industry standards, political climate, infrastructure, marketplace conditions, existing human resources. All these are things we want to consider when we are considering enterprise environmental factors. And alongside enterprise environmental factors is the organizational press asset. Organizational press asset include any or all process related assets from any or all of the organizations involved in the project that can be used to influence the project success. This process asset include formal and informal plans, policies, procedures, and guidelines such as templates, safety and health policy, process audits, acceptance criteria, and so on and so forth. We also have organizations' knowledge bases such as lessons learned and historical information. We also have completed schedules, risk data, earned value data, and generally any information available from previously done projects, historical information in particular. And a lot of times in the process of executing the current project, we come up with some templates, we come up with some data, we come up with some information that we can use again and again within the same project. And so we refer to such as organizational press asset as well. Organizational press asset will usually save the project manager a lot of time, and even the project team, it saves them from reinventing the same wheel. In fact, when we talk about engaging consultants or engaging subject matter experts, what we are buying a lot of times is part of the organizational press asset with which they come to the project. They have a lot of historical templates, historical information, wealth of experiences that they bring on board, and so what will take some fresh guys donkey years to prepare or to plan, a professional or an expert just looks through the documents and just can provide information without spending so much time. These are some of the things we refer to as press asset, and it becomes very important for the project manager that will actually not waste time. Asking your organization for press asset is not a sign of incompetence. In fact, it's a sign of someone who is ready to deliver something better than what has been delivered before without wasting time as well. Updating and adding to the organizational press asset are as necessary throughout the project are generally the responsibility of the project team members. Okay, so it's not just the project manager that updates the organizational press asset. Everyone on the project gets to update press asset, from lessons learned, from templates produced, from data generated, and such kind of activities. We have project stakeholder and governance. A stakeholder is an individual, group, or organization who may be affected by, or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. Wow. Stakeholders may be actively involved in the project or have interest that may be positively or negatively affected by the performance or completion of the project. So when we talk about project governance function is oversight functions that is aligned with the organization's governance model, and that encompasses the project lifecycle. Project governance involves stakeholders as well as documented policies, procedures and standards, responsibilities and authorities. Project governance framework provides the project manager and team with structure, processes, decision-making models, and tools for managing the project. Examples of the element of a project governance framework includes project success and deliverable acceptance criteria, process to identify, escalate, and resolve issues that arise during the project, guidelines for aligning project governance and organizational strategy, project lifecycle approach, process for stage gate or phase review, when we break our projects down into phases, process for review and approval for changes to budget, scope, quality, and schedule which are beyond the authority of the project manager, process to align internal stakeholders with project process requirements, and so on and so forth. Organizations use governance to establish strategic direction and performance parameters. The strategic direction provides the purpose, expectations, goals, and actions necessary to guide business pursuit and is aligned with organization strategic objectives. Project management activities should be aligned with the top level business direction, and if there is a change, then project objectives need to be realigned. Stakeholder management and corporate governance. Now, project governance is the alignment of the project with stakeholders' need or objectives. It is crucial to the successful management of stakeholders' engagement and the achievement of organizational objectives. Project governance enables organizations to consistently manage projects and maximize the value of project outcomes and align the projects with business strategy. It provides a framework in which the project manager and sponsors can make decisions that satisfy both stakeholder needs and expectations. Okay, so what do we call project success? Since projects are temporary in nature, the success of the project should be measured in terms of completing the project within the constraints of scope, time, cost, quality, resources, and risk as approved between the project managers and senior management. To ensure realization of benefits for the undertaking project, a test period such as soft launching services can be part of the total project time before handing it over to the permanent operations. Project success should be referred to as the last baseline approved by the authorized stakeholders. Project team now. The project team includes the project manager and the group of individuals who act together in performing the work of the project to achieve its objectives. The project team includes the project manager, the project management staff, and other team members who carry out work but who are not necessarily involved with management of the project. The team is comprised of individuals from different groups with specific subject matter knowledge. And then composition of the project team now varies based on factors such as organizational culture, scope, and location. However, the relationship of the project manager and the project team varies on the authority of the project manager. Example of basic project teams composition can include dedicated team. In a dedicated team, all or a majority of the project team members are assigned to work full time on the project. The project team may be co-located or virtually located and usually reports directly to the project manager. This is the simplest structure for a project manager, as the lines of authority are clear and team members can focus on the project's objective. And we have part-time, whereby some projects are established as temporary additional work with the project manager and team members working on the project while remaining in their existing organizations and continuing to carry out their normal functions. The functional managers maintain control over the team members and the resources allocated to the project, and the project manager is likely to continue performing other management duties. Part-time team members may also be assigned to more than one project at a time. A project may be divided into any number of phases, and so when we have phases, we get to do what we call progressive elaboration or rolling wave planning. I'm going to mention that in clear details later on in the course of this course. A project phase now is a collection of logically related project activities that culminate in the completion of one or more deliverables. A phase may emphasize processes from a particular project management process groups, but it is likely that most or all processes will be executed in some form in each phase. Project phases are typically completed sequentially but can overlap in some project situations. Different phases typically have a different duration or effort. The phase structure allows the project to be segmented into logical subsets for ease of management, planning, and control. The number of phases, the needs for phases, and the degree of control applied depend on the size, the complexity, and potential impact of the project. And so we have sequential relationship. In a sequential relationship, a phase starts only when the previous phase is complete. The step-by-step nature of this approach reduces uncertainty, but may eliminate options for reducing the overall schedule. And when we have the overlapping relationship, in an overlapping relationship, a phase starts prior to completion of the previous one. This can sometimes be applied as an example of the schedule compression technique called fast tracking. Overlapping phases may require additional resources to allow work to be done in parallel, increase risk, and can result in rework if a subsequent phase progresses before accurate information is available from the previous phase. Well, the danger in overlapping relationship is a situation whereby we require a lot of information from the success of the first phase before we embark on the second phase. So a lot of times when we just embark on the second phase with confidence that what we have done in the first phase should be good enough, and then we later discover it to be otherwise, it can be a lot costly. Okay, so all we have been discussing so far has been some form of interactions that organizations usually have with project and project life cycle. We've been looking at how different structures will interact with the organization. We looked at types of organization, we looked at who stakeholders are, we looked at how they interact with the organization, we looked at different types of organization, and we saw how these different types of organization will actually manage their project resources. Okay, so as we go out of this particular topic, it gets more interesting, because from now on we're going to be discussing the knowledge areas of project management, and then we have 10 of them. So we're going to be starting in the next module with project integrations management. Thank you. Welcome back. In this module, we're going to be discussing organizational influences and project life cycle. Projects we carry out usually are as a result of needs. It could be need of an individual, need of a family, need of one form of organization or the other. It could be a business enterprise. But as a result of need, a lot of times we carry out projects. And so there is usually some form of interaction between the organization and the project. Remember, we define project as the temporary endeavor we carry out to accomplish unique goals or to achieve unique results. So if we have unique goal that we are targeting for the use of a particular organization or an entity, there is always a lot of influences from that entity or that organization in the process of executing the project. So we're going to be looking at how different types of organizations influence project management, and especially the life cycle of project itself. We are going to be looking at the broader scope or the bigger context in which we should